And our district project was to put water wells, and with water wells, we could put schools in. But before we put the water well in, the girls went and about 3 miles to catch the water, 3 miles back, and they did that twice a day, so 12 miles a day. What they couldn't do, of course, while going to get the water, was they couldn't go to school. Well, we got them the water, and if you know, one of the best ways to help a developing country is to educate the girls more than the boys. The boys tend to leave the villages and go to the big cities. The girls, they marry and they stay in the village, and the healthcare improves and the economics improves and the standard of living improves. And so that's something we accomplished. I go there in 13, and then I go back in 14 to make sure the water wells are going. Now, the next slide is that transformational moment when we hit water. This is my picture that I took, and it's like oil. That's transformational. That's the moment people's lives change. But I go back the next year, and what did they do with the water? They turned it into beer. Now, a lot of you, if not all of you, have been to some place you can't drink the water, but you can always drink the beer. Why can you always drink beer?
It's fermented.
No, that's the alcohol is not what makes it safe. The main ingredient in beer is water, but it's cooked. It's pasteurized. And a lot of people think that Louis Pasteur, pasteurization is for milk. Louis Pasteur created pasteurization for the brewers of Paris. So you owe pasteurization to beer, not to milk. And that's why it's always safe to drink. Next. Before the invention of the thermometer, by the way, there is only 2 types of beer. There are a lot of styles. One's a lager and one's an ale. But there's only one difference between an ale and a lager, and that would be the yeast that is used. If you use a yeast in a lager, you brew it at a lower temperature and takes more, and that is why you have a blander taste, because it doesn't create that bold taste that an ale has. You make an ale out of a different yeast at a higher temperature. But it's important as to when you add the yeast to the mixture. But before there were thermometers, how would you know when to add it? What's the temperature? Well, there's no thermometer. So the brewer would put his thumb in it, and that's how we got the rule of thumb. Next. One of the things, we have a good time drinking beer, but we also do good. We've partnered with the Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene Rotary Action Group, WashRag. 25% of our dues goes as a donation to them. Plus, we give them a lot more than that. We have given them usually about $4,000 a year, and in the last 6 years, we have donated to them $34,000 that they use for water projects around the world. And we think this is a good model of how a fellowship, we raise the money, and an action group, they pick the projects, we help fund the projects. So there is a synergy created by the two of us, and we work well together. Because what? The number one ingredient in beer is water. Better water in the world, better beer. Next. Next quote. I'm a firm believer in the people. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. The great point is to bring them the real facts and beer. This was said by an American president. Who said this?
Ronald Reagan.
Lincoln.
Show him who said this one.
Abraham Lincoln. Somebody said Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln said this. By the way, when it comes to presidents, only one president brewed beer in the White House. Which president is that? Was that? That was Barack Obama. He brewed beer in the White House. Our first brewer was George Washington, but he made it at Mount Vernon. And you can still make beer based on his recipe. Now, you know that we are ending polio now. I think we should, and our fellowship thinks, that we should end xenophobia, which is the fear of an empty beer glass. But the problem is that it'd be hard to put that on a Rotary pin. So end xenophobia now. Next. The most expensive beer was one made in California called Lost Abbey Cable Car Creek. It was $923 for a bottle, and here's what the bottle looks like. Next.
Oh.
And if you see this bottle, you'll probably have a very good beer, but you'll have a very small wallet. And the next one. Now, most of you, if you drink a beer probably of 4 or 5% alcohol. The highest alcohol is one called snake venom at 67.5%. It's almost a liquor. How it got classified as a beer, it runs about $80 per bottle, and here's what it looks like. You'll notice it comes with a warning label. Yep, go to the next one.
Drink beer.
There we go.
Oh.
There we go. Can you go back one? Well, it does have a warning label on it, and that's because it's a bottle. And if somebody were to drink it, that's it. There you go, snake venom. That yellow tag. You imagine if you have somebody you don't like, you go, hey, have this beer, just chug it. That person will probably be gone very quickly after they drink that beer, but they will have a smile on their face. Now, COVID affected all of us, and we're doing Zoom like we're doing now, but we found out that the Oktoberfest in Munich was canceled. So we met on Zoom periodically. And one thing we did is we met everybody in the world on October 25th. And that was at 5 o'clock everywhere in the world. So if it was in South Africa, 5 o'clock, England, 5 o'clock, Hawaii, 5 o'clock. The only way you can have a party that is at 5 o'clock everywhere in the world is to run the party for 24 hours. We started at 5 p.m. in New Zealand with a New Zealand host, New Zealand breweries. Then we moved every hour of the party, one time zone. So we had Australian hosts, Indian hosts, African hosts, German hosts, of course, when we went through Germany. I hosted the Pacific time zone, and we ended 24 hours later, actually 23 hours later, in the Hawaiian time zone with the Hawaiian host. We did this for 2 years in a row, but then Munich has their Oktoberfest again, which I'll be joining this September. By the way, Oktoberfest starts in September, not October, and it runs for 2 weeks. And it is to celebrate the wedding of King Ludwig, but it then became more than just that celebration. And you can move to the next one. We still meet online once a year. We have a traditional meeting that is, if you'll, there we go. We have our annual St. Patrick's party, and you can go ahead and show the pictures on that slide. We have an official host from Guinness Brewery. They talk about, and then hold it right there. They talk about Guinness, how to pour it, the perfect pour, the Guinness Book of World Records, where that came from, how that came about. And we have good singing and great time. And that is usually the Saturday before the real St. Patrick's Day. So we'll be doing that again in 2024. That's our traditional global St. Patrick's Day Zoom party. All right. One of the things that we do in our district is we do have events. We'll do beer tastings. You can advance the beer tasting. We do beer pong, and we have a variety of events. The next one, I think, our district conference will be doing a pub crawl and going from brewery to brewery and having a good time with that. So that's something that if you guys are getting involved in your district, is you can always do beer events. Next.
And I'll point out that Steve is wearing the American version of the BREW shirt in Yankees.
All right. And what's our next slide?
BrewFest, Yellow County BrewFest.
Yes, one of my favorite events. And one of the reasons, and Julia, you'll know this, one of the reasons I talk about brew and I do these presentations, beer makes money for Rotary, and it doesn't make thousands. tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. It makes millions worldwide for Rotary. And one of the two ways that you can make money is one, a beer fest, and they're held all over the world. You get several breweries together, they get 2 or 3 beers, and it's a 4-hour event. And one of the best ones in Rotary is the Woodland Luna Vista Brew, the Yellow Brew Fest. It's one that I go to. It's held downtown Woodland, and it's fabulous, and Julia can attest. Let's say you don't have the wherewithal or don't want to put something that big on. It's called Pints for Polio. You partner with a brewery or a restaurant. You invite people for one day to go there, and the brewery or restaurant, they pledge the profits from that one day to end polio now. And since there's still polio, we still need to raise money. Pints for Polio is an event that's held around the world. The clubs do it all over. There's all kinds of logos for it, but it's something that you guys can do is pick a brewery or a restaurant. And there's several things. One, you introduce the public to Rotary, you introduce the restaurant or brewery to Rotary, what we do, and it's a good thing for everyone. Next. I'll show you the ones in our district. There's some in our district, for example. There's my favorite is the California 5K, the Utterly Fun Beer Run. It's 2 blocks long. You have a beer at the beginning. You have a beer after you run 1 block. You have a beer if you run 2 blocks, and it's over. And so that's my favorite one. And the beer fest, they were stopped in 20 because of COVID, but everybody's coming back with them, and you'll be seeing them everywhere. Next. We also have commercial brewers. There are several in our district. These are the ones that are in our district and the one next to us. Also, Paulaner is a German brewery, and they're one of the 6 that can pour at Munich, and they belong to our fellowship. Next. And I think we're going to be talking about the RI convention. Yes, we've been at every RI convention since 2013. And the pictures on the top left is from Toronto.
Yay,
Top right is
yeah.
Atlanta. Yeah.
It's not very though.
Bottom right is Germany. And bottom left is our booth. And we're one of the most popular booths there when we can pour beer. A lot of times they don't allow us to pour beer, but when we can, we are the most popular. Next. We had 3 events in Melbourne, Australia. Usually we have 1 event, but our Australian director put 3 events together, and I think that's going to be the next slide. We sold out all 3 events. This was a brew party at the oldest brewery in Melbourne, and that was a party with a bush poet. It was a lot of fun. Then our next event is that was Crafty Squire Pub. The next event, and that was on Sunday night. Monday night, we did then put together a river cruise on the Yarra River, and that was sold out. That was a lot of fun with beer, and by the way, there was wine also served. I belong to the wine fellowship too. I like both. So, and when I was in the wine fellowship, I wanted to join the beer fellowship, and I said, "Can I join the beer fellowship?" They said, "You start it, you can join it." And we had our 3rd event, which was a beer pub walkabout. We had 5 groups. We sold that out to 5 groups of 10 Rotarians. They went each group went to 2 different pubs to start with. And then the 3rd pub is where we had dinner and everybody got together. And that was our 3rd. We're planning for Singapore, and we're looking to go to the Tiger Brewery and tour that, and a harbor cruise also. So we are already in the midst of planning for Singapore, and I'll be putting something together for Calgary in 2025. Next. Now, if I've interested you in our fellowship, and that was in Houston. These are pictures from our Houston. We had a great party. We had a mechanical bull, and we had just a fabulous brewery, the Buffalo Brewery, and we were on the top floor. Just good times. Next. If I have interested you in our fellowship, we only have one fellowship membership, which is $100 lifetime. 25 of that goes to Wash Rag. And then you don't have to deal with this anymore. By the way, here is a fun beer fact. The average human walks 22 miles
900
drink-
miles.
and drinks what, 22 gallons of beer? So they get about 40 miles per gallon of beer is the average human. And then we have a final quote, and I will tell you who said this. Next one. I have two more slides. There we go. This is the slide. You go to rotarybrew.org, you pay using PayPal, and Martin Luther said, whoever drinks beer is quick to sleep. Whoever sleeps long does not sin. Whoever does not sin enters heaven. Thus, let us drink beer. And you can also go to our Facebook page. That's for free. We have 3,500 Facebook users from all over the world. We're now getting about 70 who join per week, which is amazing. And we've hit some critical mass. And we have 1,400 BREW lifetime members who are from all over the world. And we're in over 200 countries now. So come and join us and be Brewsters with us. I thank Julia for inviting me to join your club today. It's great visiting you. And if you have any questions about beer fellowships, please, I am at your service.
Hey, I'm going back to this last one here. Okay, this is beer toast around the world.
All right. Oh.
All right. Well, I think we've lost Candace entirely. So hold on. I gotta kill my computer here.
Well, Julia, while you're doing that, I want to tell Steve that is probably one of the most fun Rotary programs I have ever experienced.
There we go.
And
Well,
certainly,
thank you very much.
and certainly, this would be a question that probably needs to be offline. But I am hugely interested in the beer fest. I mean, as a fundraiser, as something the E-Club could do, I think I could twist my husband's arm. Where's Lance? I'm looking at him online.
He has a question, so we'll see what he says.
So Lance, you need a nod north south. I think I can. I think I could twist my husband's arm. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I just never thought about anything like that. Not only have you presented a fabulous program, you have presented some ideas for fundraising, for fellowship that are just beyond anything I thought about before. Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Lance, go ahead.
Steve, first of all, thank you so much. It was an outstanding program. And
Thank you. I like your background.
oh, well, and the bottle right behind my head is a growler that my wife and I we went to Two Harbors, Minnesota a few weeks ago, and we're in South Carolina now. And I wish we were back up there because I feel like I'm in hell here, so hot. But anyway, up in Minnesota, we went to a brewery and got this growler, which was absolutely wonderful. But before I ask my question, I want to ask you, have you ever heard of Great Lakes Brewery in Cleveland?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
actually, I have.
That to me is one of the best breweries around. And as a matter of fact, in your honor, I'm drinking a vivacious beer tonight, and it's 9%. And so when I saw that
Oh, wow.
67%, I'm going, oh, wow, I didn't realize it got much past 10. My
Yeah.
question is,
Yes, sir.
and by the way, I will join the fellowship here tonight
Excellent.
or tomorrow.
Excellent.
My
Bros,
question
cheers.
is that, thank you, sir. And my question is that, over the last probably 10 to 15 years, we have seen such a growth in small breweries in
Yeah.
communities here in the United States. And I'm just curious on what is your take on why do you think that's happening?
Well, it's interesting because the number of drinkers is shrinking. The number of beer drinkers shrank. The market shrank by 3% last year. So you're getting all these people that are doing craft beer, but the competition is incredible. The odds of being successful as a craft brewer are challenging. And to give you an example, the most iconic craft brewer in the United States would be Anchor Steam. They are the ones that started the craft brewing. Yuengling is the oldest American brewer. Anheuser-Busch, Coors, and Miller are owned by international companies. InBev owns Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, and Miller. And the Molson owns Coors. The top three American brewers are Yuengling out of Pennsylvania. They're the oldest. Sierra Nevada out of California is the third, and Sam Adams is number 2. But Sam Adams and Sierra Nevada got their start, their inspiration. They were home brewers in the 70s. They weren't commercial brewers. And the only one who was making craft beer at the time was Anchor Steam, one of the few. And this guy named Fritz Maytag, he was with the, he had heir to the Maytag fortune. Loved the beer. He was in San Francisco. And they said, well, if you like it, you got to buy it because we're going out of business. He buys it. Fast forward 40 years, he sells it to somebody who sells it to Sapporo, who last week declared the brand dead, and they're ending business. Well, they've stopped brewing. So now there's an effort for local people in California to pick up Anchor Steam. But the market is tough. The reason they killed Anchor Steam is because they're losing share. And a lot of brewers are buying some of these used to be nice craft brewers. Lagunitas owned by Heineken. Now Sapporo owns Stone Brewing. And back to your original question of why so many are starting it, it's a passion. A lot of people want to have their brew house. And so they have a passion to do it. As far as a business, it's tough as heck to make that money given what's happening in the beer. But if it's your passion, go for it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
John,
you're
go ahead.
welcome.
Yeah, just a couple comments. I travel in a motorhome, as does Lance and Lene. And so when we traveled out the Midwest, Lance is texting me to tell me different places to stop and what beer to buy when I'm out there. I want to ask about glassware. I work in a grocery store here in South Carolina called Lowe's, and they have a beer den in every store in both states. But at the store I worked at, they brew the beer. It's the only one in South Carolina that has that license. But the one
Right.
they taught me to drink in this glass. Because I think what you said earlier about the importance of what you have it in. So would you comment on this? I don't remember what I was told, but
you can really get deep into the weeds on this one. There are different glassware for different brews. And my thing is, it really doesn't matter. The pour should be robust. A lot of people, they don't want to have too big of a head, so they pour it down the side of the glass and minimizes the head. You don't want to do that. You want to start by pouring it straight down the middle and then ease off, because you want that head. That's where the smell is. That's where you release the flavors of the beer. You don't get the head, you don't release the flavors. So you want to do that no matter what glass that you have it in. And then you want to have at least a large enough opening so that when you taste it, it goes by your nose on the way to the mouth into you. You're getting a combination of the aroma and the flavor of it by doing that. So the only thing as far as rule is in Europe, you're supposed to serve it in the glass of the brewer. If it's a Belgian Chimay, you serve it in a Chimay glass. We don't do that here. You don't serve a Budweiser in a Budweiser glass and that type of thing. We're pretty even on that. But if you're in Europe, you would never serve a glass of a different brewer than that. So those are my thoughts on glassware.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'm going to ask Lene to share. So Steve, Lene has this fun speaker thank you where she picks a book for the speaker and then we donate it to our little free libraries. And she spends her time when they're on the road and she's just relaxing in the motorhome, looking for books that just fit the topic or in some way fit the speaker. And so I'm always excited to see what Lene has found. And I'm sure that children's books and beer probably aren't the best,
I love it.
but then she has found one.
Excellent. Oh, I love it.
So the greatest beer run ever, Lene.
So Steve, this is kind of impromptu because obviously Candace always has a slide ready. So let me go with this. As Julia said, we put a book in a little free library, and this is called The Greatest Beer Run Ever. And basically back during the Vietnam War, there was a group of people drinking at a pub in America thinking what would it be like if we got some beer to our fellow comrades in Vietnam, and they did it. So I'm going to leave it at that. I read the synopsis of this book, and yes, this is not a children's book, but little free libraries are not just for children.
Right.
We normally
While
we normally look at the literacy aspect of little free libraries, we certainly look at little free libraries as a source of extending what we know, extending literacy for children. And Steve, will be very, very honored to put this in put it in one of our little free libraries in recognition and honor of you. Thank you.
I'm honored to have that. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, this, like I said before, your presentation was energetic. It was inspiring. And we're very, very, very happy that you were with us tonight. So Julie,
I look forward to visiting you again in the future.
Absolutely. I think that Steve I'm going to have you advance your slide, Lene, and I'll close with your slide.
Absolutely.
And I do believe that Steve is giving us a program in the fall, and so we'll be in touch on a totally different topic. So
and my apologies in advance. I am the immediate past president, so this has the old presidential logo, our old presidential theme. So if you can navigate around that, Julia, it's all yours now.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank Barbara, our newest member, and Chad for joining us and Lynn for zooming in. And Steve, thank you so much for your time. And I know it's early on the West Coast, so enjoy a pint for us.
All
And
right,
if
I'm off to the
everybody-
Anderson Valley.
Yes, if everyone can unmute for the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair
To
to
all
concerned.
Will it
Build
build
goodwill and better
friendships? And will it be beneficial
to all concerned.
And I don't have a bell yet because I'm only the president-elect. So ding, the cuckoo clock is going off though right now. So thank you,
care.
everybody. And I don't know if I'll be joining you the next 2 weeks because we'll be in Ireland and the time zone might not work. But
Definitely get a Guinness.
yes, we have a tour scheduled of the Guinness Factory. So one of my favorites. Okay.
Take care all.
Take
See you.
care.
Great job.
Thank
Julia.
you.
Great
So
job.
good to see everybody. Welcome,
Have a
Bob.
good week.
Thank you.
Julia, have a great trip.
I will.
Enjoy.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.